Hello and welcome to another conversation of what makes a leader. These are conversations with ordinary people doing extraordinary things in terms of leadership. It is a pleasure to welcome this afternoon Chrissy Wozniak. She's all over the place. I'm sure that you've seen many of the postings that she's got on social media, LinkedIn, etc., etc. She's a marketing guru and has been doing marketing for many, many years. She's an expert at marketing. She's also the founder of the North American Ag podcast, a host for the North American Ag Spotlight, and a host for What Color is Your Tractor podcast. Welcome, Chrissy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Orlando. This is so fun. I'm usually the one asking the questions, so it's really fun to be in this seat.
Yes, yes. And you do a great job. You're everywhere, everywhere. And in spite of many things, I need to ask, I met you. It was last year at the World Dairy Expo.
That's right.
And it was about the same time that there was a hurricane in Florida, like in your back door. I even think that you lost some of the roofing on your house, etc. And you were there. Why? You could have.
Yes.
Were you running away or?
Well,
How?
yeah. So that's right. I was able to escape Florida to get to World Dairy, but it was a miracle. It was very difficult to leave because I had to leave,
Yes.
I think, 3 days after the hurricane. And so it was very difficult to get there, but we made it.
You made
So,
it. Yes.
so I guess I was supposed to be in Dallas the week before the hurricane, for the Women in Agribusiness conference. And I was supposed to leave my flight was supposed to be Sunday morning. And I was all packed and ready to go. And my husband and I sat on the couch. He was just about ready to take me to the airport. And he turned on the TV and the weather was on.
Oh.
And there was a hurricane coming. And so we sat there and looked at each other and decided right there that I would have to cancel because it wasn't supposed to hit us. But I knew that if there was a hurricane in Florida, odds of me getting back in time were very slim to none. And I had to be in Madison, Wisconsin for Dairy Expo in just a few days. So I knew it would have
Yes.
been impossible to do everything. So I had to call them and say I wouldn't be able to make it. And also, I didn't want to leave my family in case something did happen at home.
Of course.
Thank
Of course.
God I didn't leave because it was it hit. We got a direct hit from the hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
It hit Cayo Costa, which is only 9 miles from us, but it's 9 miles directly west of us. So it came right over top of us.
Goodness.
And like I said, we didn't know it was going to hit our area. It was supposed to hit Tampa. So, and my husband had just started a new job. And he was responsible at this new job for helping evacuate the barrier islands north of us where it was supposed to hit. So he spent 2 days getting people off of those islands. There's no roads to a lot of the islands out here on the Gulf Coast of Florida. So he was doing that. And then on the Monday, I believe it was. So Sunday, I didn't fly to Dallas. Monday, he was doing that. And at about 3:00, Governor DeSantis came on the radio and said,
this is
switched.
For real. This is
and it's
serious.
going to hit Fort Myers, all the way up to possibly to Sarasota and all the way south of Naples, somewhere in there. Of course, we're dead in the center there.
Yep.
So he was at work, and of course he's on a boat. He can't just like leave everything and come home. And I'm like, I want to get out of here. Let's get out of here. And it was probably about 3:00 that day. And then so by the time he got home, the roads were gridlocked with people trying to leave. There's only 2 roads out of Florida. So, and we can't go south. We're as far south as we can get. So we couldn't go south. And the roads were gridlock, and tornadoes, which I didn't know this before, but tornadoes go in front of the hurricane. So as it's moving toward us, there's tornadoes. And I talked to my neighbor and he said, you don't want to be in your truck in gridlock with tornadoes coming.
One.
Stay
Oh,
home.
absolutely.
Our houses are built to withstand Category 5 hurricane. At the time, they were saying it was only going to be Category 3. It ended up being Category 4, but they released a couple weeks ago that it was actually just hit Category 5 strength. So we decided to hunker down. We had from Sunday and Monday, we were able to get up all of our hurricane shutters. And then we were told to go into an interior room, and we pretty much sat on the floor of a closet with 4 of us and our 2 dogs for.
So you actually, the hurricane went by you, went over you while it was going on.
Yep. It was very scary. And we have a concrete block house, but the interior walls were moving. They were breathing. It was the wildest thing you've ever seen. And the noise was just the worst part. I think the noise was just awful. But we made it. We survived.
I'm sure glad that you're still here. Right?
Me too.
Goodness, good. So how did you get to Florida? You're originally from Canada. Tell us a little bit about your path and how you got to Florida. I know that you've been here for several years, and tell us a little bit about that, Chrissy, please.
Yeah, so it's a long story, but I'll make it brief, I guess. I lived in a border town, and a lot of my work has always been in the US. So when the pandemic hit, I was grounded. I used to travel about 40-50% of the time, and now I was grounded. And this is also how my podcast started. But at the time, I was just working in marketing, building up my own company, and my work ground to a halt. You know, the first thing
because of the pandemic. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, a lot of people cut marketing when there's a catastrophe too, right? So, but as the time went on, well, I also had a wedding during the pandemic too. I got married, and I got married in Florida. It was really Florida and Vegas were the only places that were giving out marriage licenses. So I was we'd planned for over a year, our wedding in Florida, but it ended up that was the only place we could get married other than Vegas.
Okay.
So during that time, we traveled to Florida a few times during the peak of the pandemic. And I noticed a very big difference in life between living on a border between Ontario and New York and life in Florida. And
it's a little warmer in Florida too.
And also warmer, yes. So we finally so in September 2020, they stopped allowing my husband to cross the border. He worked in Buffalo, and in a border town, that's normal. People just go back and forth and work on one side, live on the other side. But they made it so that he couldn't come home for 8 months. And we realized how at risk we were of a lot of life things when you live on a border town and you need to be able to cross on both sides. And so we decided in summer 2021, so we, a year and 3 months or so into the pandemic, we're like, you know what, this is just too risky. I need to be on the other side. He needs to be on the other side. And it's just too much to live in Canada and still be able to work. So we decided that it was a good idea. We would sell our farm, which I said I was never going to leave my farm, but I did.
Yes.
And
a
buy
dairy farm
here. No, actually, it was just a hobby farm, actually.
Okay.
Yep. With just horses and some goats and rabbits and my beautiful flock of chickens that I couldn't bring with me, but
Canadian chicken.
That's right. Yeah.
So tell us about your businesses. You've come to Florida, you got married, you decided you liked it here in the United States and Florida, of course, and decided to stay here. How did the podcasts and everything that you're everywhere, you're doing so many things, and I'm going to ask you, how do you manage that, right? But tell us, how did that come about?
Well, I've always worked in sales and marketing for my whole career. I went to school for agriculture and I wanted to be a farmer, but for a girl to just go out and farm. They don't tell you in high school that that's really hard. You need a lot of money behind you, or you have to
Oh,
marry into it, right? So
yep.
those were my options, and that didn't pan out for me. So I started working in agriculture in sales and marketing, and I loved it. And then so I eventually, I think in 2017, decided that I wanted to go out on my own and start my own marketing agency where I could help more companies.
Okay.
So that's how I made that leap. And then was building up all my client base at that point. And then when the pandemic hit is when I was kind of grounded and I had a lot of time to think. And I read a book, and it was Selling in Tough Times. And I can't remember the author right at the top of my head, but and what it said was, their advice was, if you're trying to sell in tough times, take the network you already have and serve them. Do something
Okay.
for them and don't expect anything back. And so I'm like, okay, well, what can
Give and
I
you shall
do?
receive, right?
Right.
Yes, it's about giving, of
Yeah,
course.
that's it.
Yes.
So I just started calling my colleagues, and I did about 25 to 27 farm shows a year prior to that, for many years. So I just started calling, my contacts are manufacturers, service providers, seed salespeople. And I was just calling them and saying, what do you guys need? Well, how can I help you right now?
Mhm.
And one person specifically, he said, you know what we need? Those 10 questions you're asked at a trade show over and over again that you hate, and that by the end of the trade show, you don't ever want to hear them again. We
Yep.
need somebody to ask us those questions. And I was like,
Oh.
well, that's easy. I can do that. So that's how North American Ag Spotlight was born. It started as a 3-day event. And then after the event was done, people called me and said, well, when's the next one? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I guess I can keep doing it. So that's how, and now I'm 3 years in. I just found out this week, we are now, according to Listen Notes, in the top 0.5% of podcasts worldwide.
Oh my,
That's insane.
that
I
is
couldn't believe it.
something.
Yes. So
0.5%, top 0.5.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
Yes,
Yes. So
yes.
that was very, very
Yeah,
exciting to learn this
yeah.
week. Yeah. So
It,
the whole purpose is just to serve the industry that has helped me through my whole life. So that's the purpose of Ag Spotlight.
so let me ask you this. Of course, you got to 0.5% of the top podcasts in the world by sheer luck, right?
Yeah, that's it. All luck.
You were just lucky, right? You woke up one morning and there it is.
I
How
wish
did
it
it
was like
happen?
that.
What would you say that allow you to get to that goal? I'm assuming that that was a goal of yours as you thought about what you were going to do, the pandemic, trying to determine, okay, what am I going to do now? This is the path I'm going. How did you do it? What did you do in terms of your specific goals that you wanted to accomplish?
Well, I never thought it would become in the top percent of anything. My goal was to serve and grow my consulting and business. That was my initial goal. It's evolved since then. I've really learned about a lot of the very deep issues in agriculture, and now I've shifted to creating a platform for people who are smarter than me can come on and say what they know and be able to help the industry. So it's kind of evolved a bit since then. But like how is really discipline. When you're
This
editing in
self-discipline.
the middle of the
Yes. Yeah.
night and you don't want to, you got to just do it
Yeah.
over
You
and over again.
you don't get up by 10 o'clock, come back, do a couple. No, there
No,
is discipline there. What's a day look like for you then?
I have a
How
very structured day, and I've read a lot about success, a lot about business, a lot about sales and marketing, a lot about what makes people successful. And for me, what helps me and gives me a good day is what happens before 8 a.m. I have 5 things I do before 8 a.m.
5 things. Can
5
you
things.
can you share those 5 things with us?
I can, yes.
Good,
So
good.
before 8 a.m. So I usually wake up, my first alarm goes off at 5:45, and then I'm usually up by 6 because I know the coffee's ready. And then first thing I do is sit down and I read a chapter in the Bible. Faith is very important to me. It's the very
Sure.
first thing that comes in. Well, and coffee. So, and then the next thing is I pray. The next thing is I exercise.
Mhm.
The next thing is I learn something new. And then the next thing is I eat something healthy. So I have to do those 5 things before 8 a.m. every day, every weekday. I give myself a break on the weekends, but that's
Chrissy is taking care of Chrissy. You're
right.
taking care of yourself and
Mhm.
get started. Get started.
Yeah.
What time do you retire for bed? Is it late? About how many hours of sleep? I guess I'm asking. Do you get like 9 hours, 10 hours of sleep? Like
No,
most,
my
not
goal
everybody.
is to be asleep by 10, but I got a
Yep,
lot of work to do. So yeah,
yep,
it's not always by 10 o'clock.
yeah,
I'm happy if I'm asleep by 11.
yeah.
Mhm.
So do you manage, how do you manage your time? Is it one of the questions that we were talking about, are you able to manage the time, or is it about you managing yourself when you're
It,
dealing with time?
yeah, it's difficult. I have a book that's with me all the time. It's actually on my other desk though right now, or else I'd show you, but a notebook that everything goes in. And you're familiar with the book too, Get It Done. Who's the author again? I can't remember his name. I'm really bad with
Getting
the
things
authors.
done,
Getting things
David
done.
Allen.
Yes, that's
David
it. Yeah.
Allen, yes.
And one of the best lessons I ever taught, because you have to manage the stress too, right?
Hmm.
And something that he teaches in that book is that you have to close the loop. And that was a game changer for me, because I
Hmm.
would be like, oh, I have to remember that. I have to remember that. I have to do this. I got to book this plane
Yeah,
ticket. I got to go here. I got to do this. But what you do, if you have that book, and you could use digital, something on your phone if you want to, I just like paper. So you write it down and you say when you're going to take care of it. So you don't have to take care of it when you're thinking about it. But as long as you write it
hmm,
down, and I schedule it on the day that I think I can take care of it, and then it's gone. It's off of my chest. It's out of my brain. And I put it to bed and I've closed that loop. That was a game changer for me
yeah,
in trying to manage so much at once.
yeah.
So yeah, so if you ever see me anywhere, I have that book with me all the time. And that's where
Sure.
everything goes. As soon as it pops into my head, I don't have to stress about it. I know I'm going to take care of it on whatever day I wrote it down on.
Just write it down and then you will get to it at some point.
Yeah.
Yep. If we tried to keep it in our heads, we forget things.
Yeah.
We forget things. So you have a very structured day. How do you have portions of your day? Because I know when we did the podcast,
Mhm.
you mentioned I do podcasts on Thursdays and I do these things on these days and so on. How do you break up your day to organize it and get things done?
Yeah, I always, Thursday is the day I record. That's always, unless it's an issue that's coming up, and it's something that's time sensitive, or somebody can't make a Thursday, then I'll make an exception. But generally Thursdays is where I do all my recording. Um, Evenings is when I do editing. And the rest of the time is with my clients. So with my marketing clients. And then it's just really who needs me when. Some companies get certain time blocks. Some people get, Wednesday from 8 till 10. Some people get this. Yeah. So it's very structured, always very structured. My calendar is always just telling me what the next thing is. My calendar and my book.
They rule your life, right? That's what you follow. So tell us about marketing. What sort of marketing are you helping these companies with? It's social media, action plans, marketing plans. you're doing a variety of things. Would you delve into that a little bit, please?
Yeah. So I help companies with marketing strategy, but I really specialize in automation, CRMs and
Mm,
automation. So, and to me, that gives me a lot of joy. It's
okay.
taking, you know, a knot of a unorganized company and creating efficiency. That just makes me so happy. And I love doing that. So, what I do when I get a new customer is we sit down with their teams, usually their sales and marketing teams, asking questions, figuring out where those bumps are, figuring out where they're doing the same job over and over and over again,
Hmm.
where they can build efficiency, how they can strategize better, how they can work better as a team. And then we build using software, we build a system for them to make things like, for example, I create dashboards for a company
Hmm.
so that the sales team knows where to find everything. That's actually something that
Oh,
is really difficult, is where do I find everything, and how do I do this, and what do I do? And then companies waste so much time. They spend so much money on doing the same thing over and over and over again, where if they just had a company dashboard, that solves like a lot of issues. So I do that. And then we also do websites, and we do social media management for companies. We do email marketing, creating customer journeys, which is also part of automation, something that I really love to do. And actually, just this month, I have somebody new joining my team, which is very exciting. So I will be
oh,
able to take more clients. For 2 years, I
nice.
haven't been able to take any new clients. But with this person, her name is Shannon Ott, and she's worked in animal health. And I've worked with her for several years with a different company. And yeah, I've been just
Awesome.
kind of, wanting to gain her. And luckily
Sure.
now she's going to join us. So we have a small team. There's only 4 of us right now. And yeah, we are now accepting more select clients. Has to be ag based. Um,
Yep. Yep.
and yeah, so we'll be able to do a little bit more now. So I'm really excited about that.
I like the word that you just used, take in select clients. What does that mean? Uh, we in our business we use it, right?
Mhm.
Because we just don't work with everybody.
Right.
What's your ideal customer? What makes them select?
So they have to be doing something and have a need that we're actually good at. Right. So that's the
Yep.
first thing. Can we actually make a difference to that company? That's probably the biggest thing, is that if somebody just wants us to do something because they need somebody to do it, isn't good enough. We have
Hmm.
to know that we can excel at that thing. That's why I get requests to work in other industries, but I don't know other industries. So, so I would have to learn so much just to be able to get where I am with agriculture, right? So
Hmm.
that's why I don't even try that anymore. I used to take clients that were in other industries, but it's just too much to learn. And my comfort zone is in agriculture. So that's one thing. Another thing is I don't work with jerks. Easy as that. They waste your time.
I'm sorry, I just don't work with
I
jerks.
just don't work with
Yeah.
jerks. I learned that actually when I finished school. I actually owned a landscaping company for a few years.
Sure.
And I learned there that you'll go sit down to do a proposal for somebody and you just get this feeling. And if you work for them, they
Yeah.
can't be satisfied. And then I read a stat, and I was probably 22, 23, and it was 4% of the population you cannot satisfy. It doesn't matter what you do, how much you give, you could do it for free, you could pay them to work for them, and they still won't be happy.
Yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
kind of fine-tuned some of the flags, I guess, that
Sure.
you can go,
Sure.
okay, well, I'm not sure
Yeah.
we're a good fit for you. Um, and they have to be respectful. If they're not respectful to my
That's
team,
a nice way of saying, I think you're a, that's a nice way of saying, I think you're a jerk. So I don't think we do, there's not a good fit. But it is like that. It is like that because if you cannot help them, and then if you try to help them, but they're just not willing to work with you and listen, it's a partnership.
that's
It
it.
isn't you're doing it for them. I think it's a team effort when it
Yeah,
comes to marketing, of course.
absolutely.
How do you feel in the area of agriculture and the many challenges that we have and from marketing for companies? How do you feel about the challenge that we all have in sharing our story, that we're sustainable, that we are actually adding value, that we care about the environment, that we care about our animals, that we care about our people? How does that come in your business as you start working with companies?
Yeah, that's a huge issue, especially the treatment of animals, the marketing lies. The more I know marketing, the more I hate marketing. And even last year, I spoke at World Ag Expo, and the topic was honesty in marketing.
Oh,
And that's
sure.
really important. We don't just slap a non-GMO label on bread. There's no GMO. There can't be GMO wheat, so there can't be GMO bread. I hate that type of marketing, right?
Hmm.
My kids will go through the grocery store and laugh at the labels, right? Because, it's just absurd. But the problem is that it's marketing by fear, and it's
Mm.
creating consumers that don't know the truth. And so that really bothers me. And so any clients that I have, I always steer them away from that fear-based marketing.
Any, sure, sure, sure.
Yeah.
When we talk about leadership, who do you think of? What are some names that come to mind when we say leadership, leaders out there? Who do
First
you
of
think
all,
of?
first of all is Jesus, right? Greatest leader of all time.
Yes, absolutely. You
Yep.
bet.
Never he never talked at somebody. He always asked questions. And I try to learn from that for sure.
Mm, yep.
And in my I there's I love politics as well. And there are some political leaders who I would love to be able to sit down and have coffee with, right? Or have a beer with. One, Governor DeSantis, he's one of them that I have admired because I lived under Trudeau and Cuomo. And coming to Florida, I understand he took a lot of risks
Mm,
during the pandemic that could have just completely
yeah,
ruined him. He could have been wrong, and he wasn't
sure.
wrong. And I am so grateful that I was able to come somewhere where I could still work.
Yeah.
And so he's definitely one of those leaders that I just, am fully behind. And again, the president of American Agri Women, Heather Hampton Noddle, she's another one that's just an incredible leader that's kind and strong at the same time. I think same with Jesus. It's, meek, not weak, right? So you can
Meek,
be
not weak. Yes, yes.
kind and generous, but strong. And to me, that's what a good leader has.
What other qualities would you say make up a leader?
I would say a good leader isn't concerned with power. They're concerned with
Mm,
serving. If
yes,
they're serving the people around them, that means a lot more than having power um, over people. And I've worked, I've worked my whole career in different industries, and I've had horrible managers. I've had terrible managers. I've
yeah.
had, right, but I've had really good managers as well. And to me, it seems like the bad managers are the ones that really love power. And so I try to that's part of that jerk bucket. You try to identify really quick.
Yeah, yeah. I'll ask you, fill in the blank.
Mhm.
And I would say to be a leader is to blank. What would you say? To be a leader is
Serve.
to serve.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I'm 100% with you. There is, of course, that's not the only
Right.
quality or verb that you could put in there, right?
Mhm.
But to me, I agree with you. I think serving is of utmost importance.
Right. Yeah. One of my favorite books is Leaders Eat Last. by Simon Sinek, right?
Yep.
Yes. And
Yep.
yeah, so I've read that book 3 times. And every time I draw something new from it, it's not just serving, but it's serving to help others, not necessarily yourself. But also, in turn, it helps yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
It goes back, in my mind, it goes back to not letting your right hand knowing what the left hand is doing,
Yeah.
right? If you're doing something that you're serving just because you have, it's about serving without really expecting personal, right? Actually get some gain out of it, but that's not the reason why you do it.
Right.
You're serving as a leader, as a leader. Hmm. So what do you do with your time? We're gonna just shift a little bit about interruptions
Mhm.
and what happens when. How do you manage interruptions? You have a podcast and the phone may go off, or the kids may, hey mom, we don't have any more milk, or I don't know. How do you deal with interruptions in your daily life?
You
You have a
can't let it
method?
you can't let it ruin your day. That's probably the most important.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then always try to do better next time. So, for example, my Roomba and I have a love-hate relationship. I don't want to sweep every day, and I have 2 dogs and 2 kids. So the Roomba has to do its job, but it's knows when I'm in a meeting. It knows when I'm doing an interview, and it always comes under my feet. So yeah, so all I can do is just say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I just need to pause. I got to get rid of the Roomba." Things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. You're
Or
having
try to make
conversations, right? You're having conversations with the Roomba.
yeah.
Said, hey, no.
And then try next time to unplug it or make sure it's turned off
Sure.
before I start.
You bet.
But
You
it's like
bet.
that with any distraction, you've got to roll with it. If it's
Yeah,
disruptive, you have to apologize.
yeah.
Something was,
Flexibility, right? You got to be flexible, and
yep.
it happens. It happens, and we just need to make the most out of it. So,
Mhm.
leadership, then, what does it mean to you when we say leadership? You talked about serving.
Mhm.
Do you consider yourself a leader?
I I suppose as I get older, enough people have called me a leader that
Yeah.
I think it's becoming true. I never set out to be a leader. Um, I have a big mama bear instinct over the team I'm working with, and I think that could be why I've been labeled a leader throughout my life. I just really I like creating an environment where other people can succeed.
Hmm. Goes
And
back to serving,
I guess, yeah.
serving people. Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's a tough question to answer, right? Because as a leader, I don't think that you would say, "Of course, I'm a leader." Yes,
Right.
it's because being humble, it's part of leadership. I think it is,
Mhm.
and if you are just kind of telling yourself and telling everybody, "Well, I'm a leader," you're probably not a leader, right? It's
Yeah.
just about serving and being humbled and being transparent and well, flexible, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a couple last questions,
Mhm.
and we thank you again. What would you say to someone that would be getting started on the path to leadership? What sort of tips or suggestions would you share with them?
2 things. First, show up.
Mm.
Just keep showing up when you don't feel like it, when you don't think that you're making a difference, when you don't think you can do anything else, when you're tired, just keep showing up. Second
Yeah.
thing, find opportunities to say, "It was my fault, I'm sorry." Because I
Yeah.
think when we're working and when we're trying to be successful, we have a tendency as humans to say, "It wasn't my fault. I did the
Hmm.
right thing. It wasn't my fault." But the place where
Yeah.
you can build trust with people is in your own vulnerability. So if you see you made a mistake and
Yeah.
you have the option of sweeping it under the rug and pretending it didn't happen,
Yeah.
or you have the other option of saying, guys, I dropped the ball. I'm so sorry. How can I make it right? You're going to
Yeah.
build trust if you say the second.
Yeah, very true. It sort of relates to how some people will point the finger, and then there's three pointing at you back, right? And then
Yeah, that's it. I love that
it's
imagery.
like, oh my goodness. Yes. What makes a leader, in your opinion?
It goes back to service again. And I guess I think when people see a leader, they see somebody at the front of the pack. But, if you look at animals, the leader is watching over the pack,
Mm.
right? They're not just out there for themselves. They're watching you think about a wild horse and its pack, or a wolf and its pack. The leader is there to make some decisions and, do some of the hard stuff, but is always there for the pack, not just for themselves.
Yes, yes. Well, Chrissy, it's been a pleasure visiting with you.
You
And
too.
and I wish you the best with your new adventures that you're launching. And there is the podcast, and three podcasts that people can tune into. They can follow you on LinkedIn. And we're going to have a slide of your business and your contact information prior to the podcast here, and then
Perfect.
also at the end, so that people can get a hold of you. So we really thank you. We wish you the best, and I thank you for tuning in to the podcast, where a conversation about leadership principles happen. Have a good day. Thank you, Chrissy.
Thank you. Awesome. That's so